Hi YouTubers, it's Steve Robertson again calling from Rescape, the channel that seeks to help people by informing or altering their fundamental perception of reality and how that affects them and how that could affect them in better ways if it were different, and then how that affects what they do and what they want to do and what they hold to be true, and how that makes them a whole human being under certain circumstances and how you can improve that. And then also on the different tensions and softnesses people have throughout their psyche and spirit and physical body that either help or hinder being a whole person. If you wonder what any of these terms mean, just check my previous videos. Today I'm going to add to that some more, if that's even possible. I've already talked about faith. I think it was my first video about how society's version of faith actually isn't what real faith is determined on a spiritual level. Well, it turns out the same is true for what people call hope, and what hope really is. Like, oh, I hope you'll do well. Real hope, think faith, think real faith, but in the future. So real hope, if someone has hope in something, it's not like they're not sure if it's going to happen or not, like the fake faith. That would be the fake hope. Real hope is you look into the future with your mind spirit and you say, this is what's going to happen. And it does. And it's because a person has hope that occurs. So today on hope, I need to break this down into further increments. The first one being, you know what, hope sounds a little too pansy. Another word for hope, real hope, is if you have a reason for doing something. If you have a reason for doing something, then what you're doing, you're assuming is going to work out a certain way for your advantage or for some occurrence that you're doing it for. So, for example, if you go to work and you're there to make money, well, your reason isn't to make money because money is just pieces of paper. There's things that your money is going to buy, and then that would be your reason. And maybe you don't want to work for money, and maybe you want to get a job where you have a greater hope in an occurrence or a greater reason. I guess this kind of goes into purpose too, like what your purpose is, but it doesn't have to be that far reaching. It can just be like, oh, I'm going to go up to an ice cream stand, and what's my reason? To get some ice cream. It's like, but you have to understand that to do any of this, there has to be a sense of wholeness and intent, otherwise you're going to be fighting yourself on some level. I mean, like, well, I'm going to work to make money to buy stuff, and I hate my job, but I have to go anyway. I'm not necessarily in debt. I'm not talking about myself, by the way. I'm just using this as an example. I'm not necessarily in debt, but I don't really know of anything else I can do to make this much money, and I like my lifestyle, so I'm just going to suffer through work and make money for other reasons. So there's a break, and then the suffering that comes from the break is you have to go to work every day and hate your job. But people decide that, and what this video puts into place is when you have hope or a reason, you don't have to change anything. There is no external change. It's just literally in your mind, you decide, today I'm going to work for a different reason, and you do the same thing, nothing's different. Except now what changes is the quality of how you're doing your job, or the quality of how you do something. Depending on what your ultimate hope is in whatever you do, that's going to change not even the method, but like the spirit of how you go about doing it. And some examples for a lot of people, you have like an overriding hope in your life, or like how you want this to end up, and basically what that would be more of a purpose. Like if you took everything away and you only had one thing left, what would you have left? And for a lot of people, it's like children. If there's parents, they would give everything up to make sure their children are okay. But it doesn't have to be. It can be a number of things. And again, this is more of a choice. Unlike your fundamental overriding perception of reality, the reason you do things is very, very up to you. But you have to be aware of what the reason is you're doing things right now, like in the present moment. And the present moment's a great way to figure that out. And the present moment's the place you go to when you want to change the reasons for whatever you're doing in your life. You can go there, and then you can feel out those things, and you can alter them. And that's another reason for the present moment. You can check out the present moment video. Some of the what really inspires me is like when I see, if you've ever seen like Spider-Man 2, when like Spider-Man's stopping the subway train and he's like shooting his web out in all directions, just trying, and he's like in the front of the subway, holding it back. It's about to go over a cliff or something, and he's literally by himself, his body on the front of the subway or the train, just shooting weapon all directions, trying to like he's gonna destroy a whole section of the city or rip his arms out of the socket. But that train is not moving. It's not going over that cliff, and that is a reason, and that's a very strong reason. And when you have a sense of hope, it's like that. It's like like you look into the future and you're like, I know this is going to happen, and then nothing else matters because that's your reason. If you want to accomplish great things in life, a lot of people look at like the feats and be like, oh wow, that's just too much. So I don't know if I could do that. But really, whether or not it's too much is you need to look inward and see, is my desire strong enough to carry me through to that accomplishment? If you have a reason and your desire and that reason is strong enough, only you know if your desire is strong enough. Other people are probably going to think you're crazy if it's a really high goal. I heard of like a CPA who was 25 who had like a 6-figure salary, high-paying job, and then he realized one day that he wanted to be a Navy SEAL. So he quit and went and joined the Navy SEALs, and he was 25, and none of his friends and family supported him. But he had a reason for that, and he had the desire to do that, and he knew that that was his core true desire, or like his overarching purpose. And so there was no second guessing him. When you're a whole human being, that happens like all the time. Like you no longer are like, oh well, I want to do this, but I want to do this too. It's like this is what I'm doing, and it will happen. And at first it's just going to be a few things, but then eventually it's your whole life lives that way. And really highly advanced, highly developed people, even going to the ice cream stand, like they'll have like 5 reasons for why they're going to get ice cream, and they're aware of all 5 of them, but just as like an afterthought about how it connects to everything else in their life. And you get this wholeness of like intent and desire, not just in mind, body, spirit, but in the way you go about existing. Whatever time you're conscious, what you end up doing in that moment now connects with everything else that you are going to be doing in that moment for the rest of your life, and maybe even beyond. Like this is an idea of wholeness, and you're able to do this because of that idea that things will work out in your favor if you want them to, if you have the desire and your reason gives you the desire to do those things. Another one I like, if anyone's seen Man of Steel, and it's the world crusher is like destroying the world from 2 poles, and he's on one end, and it's a terraforming, so like they're changing Earth into his planet's climate, but the problem is in his planet he doesn't have superpowers, so he's trying to figure out how to take this thing down, and he pretty much knows it's going to destroy him, but he has no choice. There's no one else who can do it, and so he goes to the very bottom, the center of it, and it's like crushing him down, but he has a reason that he's there, and he's a very strong reason, and he just flies straight up through it like the speed of light. Like, well, how could he do? He wasn't even supposed to be able to fly. And I know it's just a movie, but it really hammers home like what was there. It was his body and his will. Like it was his mind. All that was there was him. And so this gives you some ideas about how this could take place. Well, maybe, I mean, that can't take place in real life, obviously, but you know what I mean. One of my overriding purposes, and the only thing I will promise to this channel, is truth. I want to know everything, like, and not just spiritual things. Like, my first words were, "What is that?" As a little kid, my dad will tell you, and I just pointed to everything. I just want to know what everything was. And now, one of the reasons I can make a channel like this is because I have an insatiable desire to learn new things. Sometimes even the point where it can be unhealthy. But that's just who I am, and that's my reason. And I just want to know everything, and I can just feel it inside me. Like when I say it, I just really like I can feel my spirit stirring, and that will be an overriding purpose or hope in my life. That one day, that like I will have an idea of what this world is like. There's got to be more than just getting old and having grandkids and a retirement. Like I need to know, and like I don't care about any of that other stuff. I don't mind not have kids or retirement. I could be poor. Like honestly, like I have a really different set of priorities than most people, and I think that's why I'm in a unique vantage point to tell you these things. One of the things with your reasons can be broke, just like your wholeness can be broke. You can have a reason. If someone discourages you from that reason, then you have a break there, and then whatever you're going to do because of that reason can no longer be there. So it's very important, even just like basic things. So you're going out your day and you're happy, and then someone makes you sad. Well, like, why did you allow them to make you sad? You had something special and they took it from you, and you shouldn't have let them do that. So instead of like reacting to everything, now you can hold on to that core inside you, like what am I doing this for, and then other things will move away, and life will open up, opportunities will open up to you. I'm trying to think. I actually did take notes on this one because there's a lot of different things to say. I'm sure this video is going way over what the most videos do. Oh yeah. Well, so let's say that you're on the interstate and you're passing by trees on the interstate. I actually think about this sometimes. I'm crazy, but like you could pull over on the interstate, walk out into the forest, and you're like, oh, I want to touch that leaf. So you go over and you take it and you go to the branch and there's a leaf and you touch it. And it's like, that sounds pretty ridiculous, but you can do that, right? Well, on a spiritual level, no. And this is why. Because to do anything on a spiritual level, you have to have a reason. Like it's written in the beginning, there was a reason, and everything came out of that reason. So a large thing with me with my spiritual growth, back in my bad times, I'd want to do things, but I couldn't make myself do them. There was a huge break there, and the break was that my spirit didn't have a reason to do those things, and I didn't have a way to connect up with it to give it the reason to activate, to do certain things. If you don't, people don't realize this, but you use your spirit all the time, and if you don't have a way to internalize a reason to do things, then I mean that's what's wrong with depressed people. Like they don't want to wake up in the morning because they lose interest in things. They don't have those reasons anymore. Prayer changes this. If an atheist watching this, or agnostic, whatever, there's still a mechanism for this, even if God doesn't exist. Like if you pray and you can start reasoning in your mind why you should do something, well, that can just be someone talking themselves in their head, and then they just talk themselves up into doing something they wouldn't have otherwise because they had a moment to pause and reflect. So that's one way. If you need to motivate yourself, just ask yourself what your overriding reason is and what your motivations are and what you really see be happening. Over time, when you do this, whatever reasons you hold, with whatever different actions and whatever different parts of your life, it's going to affect your self-image. So if you're like a bad person, you do bad things, and you know you're a bad person, but then you decide to say, hey, well, maybe it would be nice if I stopped doing bad things. When you first start doing good things, you're still going to think you're a bad person. And so, but what happens is when you change the reasons for why you do things, and now you're doing good things, for whatever reason you decide to be a good person, those reasons stick with you and they become your new identity. So it's important to keep good reason. When you're aware of what reasons you're choosing, it's good to keep those reasons. I think that's it. So it's kind of vague, but basically, now that you've got the idea of wholeness in the present moment and fundamental version of reality and what you do and what you want to do and what you see to be true, and then the idea of like, well, what are the conflicts and what different reasons are conflicting with each other? Well, those are breaks in your wholeness. And you may not feel them until like you realize that you're on a diet and you don't need to go to getting an ice cream, and you wouldn't have even thought about getting an ice cream except the ice cream truck's there. And so now that's the break. So, but if you had resolved it beforehand, it's like, hey, listen, I'm on a diet. I don't want anything else because this is the reason I'm on a diet. And then the ice cream truck comes and you don't want to go to the ice cream truck because you've already rooted yourself in the original purpose. And that can be your whole life. Like that's what I'm working on. I think anybody can do this that wants to. The key is awareness. And the easiest way to be aware of this thing, I know with fundamental, determining your fundamental views of the universe, it's based off what you do, and you can kind of figure out what you do. With these, the easiest way to do it is also the easiest way to change them, and that's the present moment. Figure out how to access the present moment, work your mind into that, and meditate on that every day. And these things will come to light, and then you'll start making the modifications you need to live a better life. So I have no idea how long this video went on. It was a lot to do. This is an important topic. This is how you live a happy life. This is how all the things I've talked about before lead up to this, so you can live a happy life. You have to know what you're doing and why you're doing it. This is Steve calling from Rescape, day 6 or day 7. Thanks. Bye.